Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to our Tafseer class. We are doing the kitab known as Al-Jami'u li Ahkam al-Quran of Imam Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah. And tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we will hopefully complete the Tafseer of Surah Al-Mutaffifin. So without delays, let us begin. Bismillahi walhamdulillahi wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So we are starting from this point here on page 156 on volume 22. He says, وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ أي إِذَا رَأَى هؤلاء الكفار أصحاب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he said, explaining the ayah, وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُّونَ. That's the ayah we're dealing with. So he says, in explaining the ayah, he says, وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ, when they see them, he meaning إِذَا رَأَى هَؤُلَاءِ الْكُفَّارُ أَصْحَابَ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم. Meaning when these kuffar, when they see the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, قالوا, what do they say? They say, إِنَّ هَؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُّونَ. These people are misguided, they are astray, meaning the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. These misguided kuffar have the audacity to call the Sahaba radiallahu anhum astray. فِاتِّبَاعِهِمْ مُحَمَّدًا صلى الله عليه وسلم, on account of the fact that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum followed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He goes on further, he says, وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ حَافِظِينَ لِأَعْمَالِهِمْ مُوَكَّلِينَ بِأَحْوَالِهِمْ رُقَبَاءَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Then Allah makes mention of an ayah, and Imam Al-Qurtubi doesn't delve a lot into tafsir of it because he feels it's quite straightforward. So he says, وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ حَافِظِينَ. But these kuffar, they were not sent by Allah as being guardians over the Muslims in the first place. So حَافِظِينَ لِأَعْمَالِهِمْ, they were not sent as guardians over the deeds and the actions of the Muslims. مُوَكَّلِينَ عَلَيْهِمْ, meaning that they were appointed over the Muslims. رُقَبَاءَ عَلَيْهِمْ, that, like we are the ones, like somebody who's appointed a watchman. Allah did not appoint them, you kuffar, as watchmen over the Muslims in the first place. So, you sit here, oh, we are right, and you Muslims, you are wrong. But in reality, you are just on kufr. So that's as far as he goes with the tafsir. So he moves on further. He says, فَالْيَوْمَ يعني هذا اليوم الذي هو يوم القيامة. He says that but on that day, he says the day here, this day refers to the day of Qiyamah. الذين آمنوا بمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Those who believed, meaning believed in Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, من الكفار يضحكون كما ضحك الكفار منهم في الدنيا. He says, on that day, those who believed will laugh at the kuffar. He says, like how the kuffar laughed at the Muslims in this world. نظيره في آخر سورة المؤمنين وقد تقدم. He says a similar ayah is mentioned at the end of Surah Al-Mu'mineen, but that is obviously passed by quite far back, and we didn't do it in our tafsir since we started from the 30th para, but nonetheless at the end of Surah Al-Mu'mineen is a similar ayah, and he had explained the same thing back then. So therefore he will not deal with it a second time. وذكر ابن المبارك رحمه الله أخبرنا محمد بن يسار عن قتادة في قوله تعالى فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون قال ذكر لنا أن كعبا كان يقول إن بين الجنة والنار كوان فإذا أراد المؤمن أن ينظر إلى عدو كان له في الدنيا اطلع من بعض الكوى. قال الله تعالى في آية أخرى فاطلع فرآه في سواء الجحيم كما في سورة الصافات. قال ذكر لنا أنه اطلع فرأى جماجم القوم تغلي. Okay, so now we move on to the next point over here, which is the Imam Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak rahimahullah. He speaks about, or at least not I should say he shouldn't speak, but he quotes from Imam Muhammad ibn Yasar from Imam Qatada. Now Imam Qatada was one of the famous students of Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. So as you know, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu was the Imam of Mufassirin. So these are names you'll always find. Imam Mujahid ibn Jabr, Mujahid, Mujahid say, Mujahid say, Mujahid say, that's Imam Mujahid. And Imam Qatada, and Imam Ata, they are the Imam Dhahak. They're the names you're going to be finding all the time. Whenever tafsir is mentioned, their names will always come up on account of them being the famous students of Hadrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. But in any case, so this is Imam Qatada rahimahullah. He's giving the tafsir of the ayah on this. فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون. He says ذكر لنا أن كعبا كان يقول. He says it was mentioned to us that Ka'b, who is Ka'b? Ka'b here, obviously, it just said Ka'b. But when you know what is what, then you know who the Ka'b, who this person Ka'b is that's being referred to. It's Imam Ka'b al-Ahbar. Ka'b al-Ahbar is a tabi'i. He's not a sahabi because although he lived in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he was a Jew and he only accepted Islam by the time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away. Therefore, he is considered as being a tabi'i and not a sahabi. So Imam Ka'b al-Ahbar, he used to say, Inna bayna al-jannati wa nari kuwan. That between Jannah and Jahannam, there is like an iron. Call it, let's put it this way, a telescope. There's a telescope between Jannah and Jahannam. فإذا أراد المؤمن أن ينظر إلى عدو كان له في الدنيا اطلع من بعض القوى. It's, if you go on top, although I've never been there, but if you've seen the pictures, when you get there on top of the Eiffel Tower or maybe the Empire State Building, they've got a like binoculars over there, and then you put money in to be able to use binoculars, but you get the picture. So you come and you can look through the binoculars and see things there at the bottom because you're so high up in the sky. So think of it along those lines. So between Jannah and Jahannam, there is this telescope, as we'll call it. So when a mu'min decides to look at an enemy of his that you used to have in this world, meaning an enemy, a kafir. So this kafir was your enemy in this world. He died upon kufr. Now you want to say, hey, let's go see what's happening with the previous Queen of England, let's put it that way. So, all those Muslims who were murdered in India during the British taking over of India and all those sort of stuff over there, and the tens of thousands of Muslims, ulama, forget about the normal Muslims, thousands of ulama themselves were killed by the British. So now they say, we want to see what's happening with the ex-Queen of England, for example. So اطلع من بعض القوى. They will then come and look from a side of the telescope. قال الله تعالى في آية أخرى. He says in another ayah, Allah mentions, فَاطَّلَعَ فَرَآهُ فِي سَوَاءِ الْجَحِيمِ. They will look and they will see this kafir in the depth of Jahannam. He says, قال ذكر لنا أنه اطلع فرأى جماجم القوم تغلي. Imam Ka'b rahimahullah, he said that it was mentioned to us that أنه اطلع, the mu'min will look now through this telescope, as we're calling it, and he will see the skull. Jamajim is it means skulls. The skulls of these people, these enemies, these kuffar, he will see their skulls boiling in Jahannam. So, like I was giving the example, you look through the binoculars, you're not obviously seeing everything. You're focusing on a singular point because obviously Jahannam is more massive than you can ever imagine. Because in the first place, people are giants in Jahannam. You're not your regular size. Your size is increased. So, massive as it is, but Jahannam is even more massive. But nonetheless, so they will look through the looking glass and they will see there he is. Burn, burn, you evil kafir, and all those sort of things. So he says, وذكر ابن المبارك رحمه الله أيضا أخبرنا الكلبي عن أبي صالح في قوله تعالى الله يستهزئ بهم قال يقال لأهل النار وهم في النار أخرجوا فتفتح لهم أبواب النار فإذا رأوها قد فتحت أقبلوا إليها يريدون الخروج والمؤمنون ينظرون إليهم على الأرائك فإذا انتهوا إلى أبوابها غلقت دونهم فذلك قوله الله يستهزئ بهم ويضحك منهم المؤمنون حيث غلقت دونهم فذلك قوله تعالى فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. You look at this, the words as Imam Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he puts it here, you see the scene in your mind, so vivid the picture is that he draws. He says Imam Ibn al-Mubarak rahimahullah also mentions from Imam Al-Kalbi, from Imam Abu Salih rahimahullah, who gave his tafsir of the ayah, Allahu yastahzi'u bihim, which verbatimly would translate as Allah mocks them. Now he'll go on to explain that at the late stage, but Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. Like makes a joke, a mockery out of them. Keep that in mind for now. That is an ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah in the early part of the Quran. He says, قال يقال لأهل النار وهم في النار. It will be said to the people of Jahannam while they are in Jahannam, أخرجوا, or أخرجوا, go now, leave Jahannam, in other words. فَتُفْتَحُ لَهُمْ أَبْوَابُ النَّارِ, and the doors of Jahannam get open for them. فَإِذَا رَأَوْهَا قَدْ فُتِحَتْ, when these denizens of Jahannam, the doors are open, and they will rush. أَقْبَلُوا إِلَيْهَا يُرِيدُونَ الْخُرُوجِ, they will rush towards the doors, intending to get out now, because it's like, it's open. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَيْهِمْ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ, and the mu'mineen are lying on their recliners in Jannah, looking at them. It's like they on top, watching the scene unfold at the bottom here. فَإِذَا انْتَهَوْا إِلَىٰ أَبْوَابِهَا, and as these kuffar now reach the doors, they are about to get out. غُلِّقَتْ دُونَهُمْ, it gets shut in their faces. So after the whole get up and run, charge to get out of all of this punishment, you finally free and things, and the door gets closed in their faces. فَذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى اللَّهُ يَسْتَهْزِئُ بِهِمْ. So Imam Abu Salih, he says, this is what is meant when Allah says Allah makes a mockery of them. They become, in other words, they become a joke for the people of Jannah. وَيَضْحَكُ مِنْهُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ حِينَ غُلِّقَتْ دُونَهُم, and the mu'mineen now laugh when they see the door closed in their faces. Let's put it to you in this way. In today's world, you have all sorts of things people do for fun. Let's call it that. So you have people, okay, let's put it this way, you have some kuffar. So they get homeless people, America and those countries, homeless people, they sleep on the street, they don't have family, it's like, if they're here or they're not here, nobody's there to miss them or anything. So they gather them, and then it's like, you must run from this. If you manage to get out of this forest to that side, we'll give you $10,000, for example. And they hold things like this. And these people don't know what it is. So they think, oh, okay, it's some sort of a race. So they sign up willingly because they think, hey, $10,000, that's a lot of money. We can do a lot with that. So obviously, so they get involved. And then the organizers of these sort of things, they get the hunters involved. So they get a whole lot of people, and these people are now, you can choose your weapons. You want to go and hunt them on foot, hit them maybe with the axe. Some will take sniper rifles, others will take bow and arrow, things of the sort. And then as these people will run, maybe they make it a maze, maybe they make it, like through a river and things. They have all of these sort of ideas of what make things fun, and then they will now chase them down and shoot them and kill them. At the end of the day, nobody makes it out on the other side because they are now like a game for them. Obviously, these people find it very much fun to end up killing them in that way. But the point being that, when you are now in Jannah and you have been through all the difficulties in this world, you have, even until today, and you ask people about Adolf Hitler, and people are like, I hate him. You don't even know what is he, anything, what's his middle name, you don't know. When was he born, when did he die, you don't know. I just hate him. Why? Because he had the genocide of the Jews, and the Holocaust, and all that sort of monarchy. But the point being that if people see, hey, Daisy being punished, people will be happy. You know nothing about him, but that let's put it this way, inherited hatred has been planted into you because of society. But anyway, the long story short, these are the people who oppressed and tortured you in this world. So you can imagine the Sahaba radiallahu anhum seeing the likes of Abu Jahl and all of those evil ones, Walid ibn al-Mughira, and those ones who were the enemies of Islam, who tortured, who killed Hazrat Sumayya radiallahu anha, who tortured Hazrat Khabbab ibn al-Arad radiallahu anhu, who tortured Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu. You know, all of this. Now these Sahaba radiallahu anhum, if they are lying there on recliners, you know, and saying, now the shoe is on the other foot. And you know, it's one thing, you can look in and you can see them being punished. You can look in and you can see them boiling over there, screaming as they get you know, they just desserts. But obviously what Imam Abu Saleh is mentioning over here is not something from a hadith. So whether it happens or it doesn't happen, you know, it's like it's neither here nor there. It's just amongst the tafasir which have been mentioned. Nonetheless, so he says, this is how Allah makes a mockery of these kuffar in Jahannam, because it is a means of the Muslims now laughing at them. You know, if people watch it on a game or a movie or something like this here, then it's like, you know, they laugh. You know, he tried so hard to get up. There's a bear trying to climb the hill to get somebody, and the man is busy kicking a big bear, and the bear falls down the hill. But the point being that at the end of the day, the long story short, these kuffar, they have this, you know, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's an escape out of here. We'll finally be free. And just when, you know, they believe we are free, we've reached the end, then the door is closed and they're stuck back inside in Jahannam. All that elation they were feeling, all that, you know, like that, how high their spirits were and things, it drops from there on top right down rock bottom, and that is part and parcel of their punishment in Jahannam as well. So then he says, فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ. So on that day, those who believed in this world, they will be laughing at the kuffar. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنْظُرُونَ. They'll be reclining on their recliners, looking at them. هَلْ ثُوِّبَ الْكُفَّارُ مَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. These kuffar are only being given their just deserts based on what they used to do. He says, وَقَدْ مَضَى هَذَا فِي أَوَّلِ سُورَةِ الْبَقَرَةِ. But he said, but this he passed by previously at the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, so he's not going to redo the tafsir over here, because now we're almost at the end of the Quran, even though it's only at the end of Surah Al-Mutaffifin, but you get the picture. ومعنى هل ثوب أي هل جوزي الكفار بسخريتهم في الدنيا بالمؤمنين إذا فعل بهم ذلك. وقيل إنه متعلق بينظرون، أي ينظرون هل جوزي الكفار، فيكون معنى هل وموضعها نصبا بينظرون. وقيل استئناف لا موضع له من الإعراب. وقيل هو إضمار على القول. والمعنى يقول بعض المؤمنين لبعض هل ثوب الكفار، أي أثيب وجوزي، وهو من ثاب يثوب أي رجع. فالثواب ما يرجع على العبد في مقابلة عمله ويستعمل في الخير والشر. ختمت السورة والله أعلم. So now he explains the final part of the surah. He says هل ثوب, you know, ثاب يثوب, ثواب as you would say. ثوب أي جوزية, جوزية jaza, that you are rewarded. So, or a recompense at least, because you can recompense a person with good or bad. So, هل جوزي الكفار, are the kuffar recompensed بسخريتهم في الدنيا بالمؤمنين, because of their mockery of the mu'mineen in this world, إذا فعل بهم ذلك, when that is done to them. In other words, Imam Al-Qurtubi is carrying on with the same tafsir of Imam Abu Salih rahimahullah, of the doors being open and them being thinking they're going to escape, and as they come there, the door is closed in front of them. So you used to mock the Muslims in this world, and today you are the one who is now being made a mockery of. So that's the first part. He says وقيل إنه متعلق بينظرون أي ينظرون هل جوزي الكفار. So he says for linguistics over here, he says that the هل ثوب is linked back to ينظرون. على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار. In other words, it's now becoming a thought. The tafsir, or at least the ayah itself, is thus a thought or a statement being said from one believer to the next while they are in Jannah on their recliners, then they are thinking or saying, are the kuffar being taken to task for what they used to do? That's how al-thuwib al-kuffar ma kanu yaf'alun will thus become when you take it along that, when you say it is متعلق وتينظرون. So الجوزي الكفار فيكون معنا هل وموضعها نصبا بينظرون. Okay, that's what they just explained. Another one is it is استئناف. You know, لا موضع له من الإعراب. It's got nothing to do with the إعراب and things like this. Yeah. وقيل وإضمار على القول والمعنى يقول بعض المؤمنين لبعض هل ثوب الكفار أي أثيب وجوز. Yeah. Okay. Similar to what I just mentioned also. So whether it was a thought in the mind of a believer lying on his recliner, or whether it is a statement that one mu'min says to another one, Hal thuwibal kuffar, have the kuffar been taken to task and recompensed for what they used to do? Okay, so yeah, okay, it is from thaba yathubu, linguistically a raja'a. Thawab literally means like to return. In other words, you do something, you get thawab, the returns on your investment, if we were to use it in financial terminology. So you put in some money and you get your ROI, your return on investment. So here you put in a good deed and your return on your investment, your thawab is good, and you put in an evil deed, you reap what you sow. So your return on investment is that punishment because of the action that you used to do. So he says, وَيُسْتَعْمَلُ فِي الْخَيْرِ وَالشَّرِّ. Thawab is used for good and for bad as well. So, we generally in our speech, we tend to say thawab as being only good, jaza as being only good. But linguistically, thawab and jaza, both of them can be used for good and for bad too. Most often it's used for good, but linguistically it can be used for bad, and Allah uses it time and again in the Quran. Jazauhu jahannamu khalidan fiha. His jaza, you say jazakallahu khair, jazakallah, may Allah reward you, but yet you saying may Allah reward you with jahannam, so to speak. So they will be rewarded with jahannam. Are you rewarded with jahannam? No, you are recompensed, you are punished with jahannam. But to show that linguistically the word thawab and the word jaza, although most often is used for good, it can be used for a bad thing as well. So you get the punishment of Jahannam. Obviously, Jahannam has never been a cozy ride for anybody and never will be so either. But nonetheless, he says, Khutimati suratu wallahu a'lam. The surah has ended with this, meaning he ended the tafsir on this point, and Allah knows best. And that's the end of Surah Al-Mutaffifin. And next week, inshaAllah ta'ala, we will begin Surah Al-Inshiqaq. If Allah wishes and wills, and we have not died before then bi'idhnillah ta'ala, next week we'll begin from Surah Al-Inshiqaq. But that being said, we end for tonight, inshallah ta'ala. Until next time, we end and we say, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.